Hello and welcome back to our channel. I am so glad you could join us today. We've got some amazing projects to show and a huge announcement at the end. Let's get started. We are a group of designers, developers, marketers, and managers who collaborate to create a community which hopes to inspire everyone. We aim to learn and to teach. In the last 1 year, we have organized over 30 events covering multiple domains ranging from cloud to ML. We have published 3 courses on Udemy, which have over 36,000 students enrolled cumulatively, and we have a few more coming. We have published over 30 blogs on Medium, which have acquired 40,000 views and appreciation from around the world. We have 150 development-related videos such as webinars, talks, podcasts, and tutorials. We developed and released 50 projects in the last academic year itself. These projects are live and functional. To top it all, we were awarded as the best technical club for the year 2019-2020 by VIT. We are always eager and open for collaboration with organizations in and around Vellore. We aim to build products which help uplift these organizations. In the last year, we've collaborated with Hope House, Vellore and Ranipet Police, and CMC Vellore. Through the products that we built, namely ElectionEye, Project Yuva, and Project GRS, we were able to help the Vellore Police conduct and monitor elections smoothly, fast-track the grievance redressal system for Ranipet Police, and build a platform for teenagers in collaboration with Hope House and CMC. Yes, we love open source. That is the reason why we have 230 open source repositories on GitHub. And we aim to build projects that have an impact. You can head over to our GitHub and check out the repos and maybe start a project if it helped you in some way. Today, we'll be covering ElectionEye, a project which helped Vellore Police monitor vehicles across zones during the elections of 2019. HandWriter, whose aim is why write when you can type. And Ideas website, a project which helps us ideate and bring all our projects to life.
Safe elections is the right of every country. Good evening everyone, my name is Angad Sharma and I am going to be talking about the project we did with the Vellore Police Department called Vellore Police. So it was around 2019, before the elections happened in Vellore, that the Vellore Police approached the software development cell in VIT in need for an application to track their polling vehicles. These were actually the vehicles that moved around the polling locations, making sure nothing bad was happening at those locations. They also wanted all of the polling locations be visually categorized in the terms of their vulnerability. The software development cell of VIT handed this project over to us. We used the following tech stack to make this application and to bring it to life. We used Golang, Flutter, MySQL as a database, and Firebase for things like OTP and other location-related features. Our app looks something like this, where we have all of our districts inside of Vellore plotted on a map. Whenever we tap on a particular district, we see all of the polling locations as well as all of the polling stations inside a polling location, and they are ranked on the basis of how safe or unsafe they are. So these were the preliminary designs, and these were actually the final designs that we went with. So all of these red polling locations you see right here are the polling locations which are vulnerable. And when I say vulnerable, they are vulnerable to militia attacks and unsafe for the general public. And these places have been flagged by the police department as being unsafe to vote in. And these green locations are safe for a particular voter. So moving on, let's talk about the impact of the project. There are about 13 constituencies in Vellore. Each and every constituency has about 100 polling locations, and each polling location has 5 polling booths each on an average. The best part is that our application was used by 500 police officers, and it gave them the ability to track and monitor all of the polling vehicles and at each and every polling location, and they were sent an alert if a vehicle was flagged as suspicious if a polling vehicle stayed at a particular spot for too long. We had about 500 gigabytes of logs collected in our backend, which was running on a virtual machine in VIT's servers. Now let's talk about some of the problems we faced in this project. The first problem was unclean data. In terms of data, we were given a couple of different CSV files, which are essentially Excel files, and all of these files had the polling location details, their vulnerability details, why they are vulnerable, what are the troubling characters that make the particular location vulnerable, and what are the longitude and latitude details of that particular location. Now, the issue was that a lot of this data was unclean. So, we had commas in the case of latitude and longitude, which we had to strip, but some fields did not have commas. So, a lot of this cleaning we had to do manually. So, that required a lot of time on our side, and we had to write a lot of different specialized scripts to parse all of this Excel data in order to get a clean data that could be entered into our database. The second problem was log rotation. So for location services, we were using sockets, and for every 5 seconds, we were getting the details of a particular user, which is a police officer in a polling vehicle, and we were getting their location. Now, when we are getting the locations of 500 police officers at the same time every 5 seconds, then there are going to be a lot of logs involved. Now, we had got 500 gigabytes of server storage, but we had no idea that server storage is going to be filled up so fast. And as we viewed in the previous slide, we had 500 gigabytes of logs collected, and all of these logs flushed the entire virtual machine that we had on the cloud. And we actually had to rotate those logs and delete some of the old data in order to maintain a clean working environment for the backend, and in order to get structured logs which we could actually understand and comprehend. The third problem we faced was continual support. So the way this application worked was that we had some admins that had access to view all of the details of different polling vehicles deployed onto the ground. And there was ground control, which had permission only to look at the vehicles in their own particular zone. Some of the problems we faced were that we had our final exams or we had our mid-semester exams, and we were called by police officers in order to enter some admin details in the backend. So intelligently, we created scripts for it so we would not have to SSH into the virtual machine and change details over there every single time. A problem we faced during the deployment of the app was persistent location sharing. There are about 13 constituencies in Vellore, but not all of them have equal internet connection, and there are some dead zones in those particular zones. So we had to write some specific software in order to handle that. If a polling vehicle goes into a location where there is no internet connection, we implement exponential backoff. What that essentially does is that it keeps on trying to establish a socket connection with the backend on a regular basis.
Hey guys, my name is Ashutosh and I'm going to talk about the Ideas website. So DSC VIT is all about helping the community by turning ideas into reality, and every few months the club came together and came up with ideas to work on. Now this trend was disturbed by the pandemic because, as you know, we couldn't really come together anymore and discussing ideas became harder and harder. So we had to come up with a solution which made it easy for not only us but for our community to put ideas that we could eventually turn into reality. So what we did was we built a solution. Now we built a portal for idea sharing and discussion, which made it easier for us to decide, ideas, which ideas we're going to be working on over the pandemic. We tried to give this a forum, we tried to give this a forum type feel and for proper discussion and evaluation. And what we came up with was a basic client server architecture. For the server, we use Django, and for the client, we use React. Django obviously using Python, and with React I used Firebase for notifications and Google OAuth. Google OAuth, by the way, is the only way you can log into the website. As soon as you're done logging with your Google account, you can go over to the ideas page and look at other ideas. You can interact with them. You'll find these little tags called project internal or some tags like these basically. These tags basically signify what the idea is about, and then you can also go over to the specific idea and you can discuss about it if you want in the comment section. You can also add an idea, for which you need to add a title, description, and tags, which define your idea. These ideas that you submit are looked over by us through an admin panel, which is usually just used to avoid spam. Most ideas are actually just approved because no idea is actually bad. So just we just have to avoid spam. So it's checked regularly, so it's not an issue. Throughout the ideas website, you might find some ideas with a green tag called "Made Real." This tag actually signifies that this idea was, gotten from the ideas website, and then we made it real eventually. So, eventually I can say that we ideated over more than 100 ideas during the pandemic. We are still working on a lot of them. We, finished a lot of them. We maintained that efficiency, and now we have a platform where you guys can put your idea, and we can turn them into reality if possible. And if you want, you can collaborate with us on these ideas that you yourself or someone else puts there, and all you have to do is join our Discord server. Thank you.
Hi guys, let me interrupt you here for a moment. The aim of this project showcase is to invite more outside collaborators to DSC VIT. And if you're the kind of person who gets excited on seeing such projects being built by fellow students and the impact of these projects, you are most welcome to join our Discord server, for which we'll be sharing the link very soon. So stay tuned.
So welcome, I'm Shantanu, a student developer at DSC VIT, and I'm going to talk about an application I worked on at the start of this year called HandWriter. And so the problem that HandWriter solves is that, I'm a very lazy guy and I like spending as little time on my problems as possible. And one of the problems that I face every day is that I get writing tasks that can get so tedious that I start painting letters on a page like a machine instead of thinking about the content that I'm writing. And I think that's harmful for both the content that I'm writing and my soul. So I want to solve that problem. And just a random fact, did you know that the writing speed of a person is around 13 words per minute, whereas their typing speed is around 40 words per minute. So that's about 3 times as fast. And so I thought maybe I could type what I wanted and automate the writing. And so that allows me to do the whole thing much faster. There were 2 other constraints that I considered for this problem. First, that the output has to be convincing so that it doesn't look like it was generated by a machine. And second, it has to be easily available so that non-developers can use it if they want to. So how do I go about delivering a solution that achieves all this? Well, first of all, the simplest solution that comes to mind is a fonts-based approach, because you can simply feed a font to a text editor and it handles spatial arrangement and all that stuff for you. But one of the problems with that, perhaps the biggest problem with that, is that it's too deterministic. So every A will look the same, every B will look the same, and every C will look the same. And that is simply not how a person writes. And so a fonts-based approach breaks one of our constraints, which is that the output has to be convincing, and therefore fonts are out of the window. Then we've got a machine learning based approach where we convert entire lines or pages or maybe just even alphabets and letters to their corresponding handwritten output. You've got, but if you think about it, the machine learning approach, what this is doing is basically an abstraction where you give as input your document and as output it gives a handwritten image, right? And maybe you can have your own abstraction and that gives you much more control over everything that's going on underneath. And in my case, I chose to have a hash table where I mapped alphabets to their corresponding images. So the alphabet A will be mapped to the image of the letter A. And then I would stack these letters next to each other to get words. And then, put those words together to get lines, and then the lines to get pages, and so on and so forth. One interesting thing that I can do here is I can have multiple instances of each alphabet. And so that solves the convincing determinism problem that I mentioned earlier. So maybe I have 10 instances of the letter A and my algorithm picks one at random. And so that makes the output non-deterministic and therefore convincing. So how do I build a solution that achieves all this? Well, it handles it is handled at multiple layers of abstraction. The first layer would be a letter parser, which handles letter conversion. So I handle spatial arrangement here. An A should not be taller than a T. So that's handled here. Then I've got a line parser, which puts the letters together into words and arranges them in a line. And this also handles word overflow. So maybe you've got a word that is too big to be put in a line, and so you put that in the next line. That is handled at the line parser level. Then I've got a page parser, which puts the lines together on a page, and it handles line overflow. So it puts lines that don't fit on a page on the next page. And you can even handle having page margins and stuff here. And then you've got a document parser, which puts all those pages together into a document and gives you a final output. So building the solution happens through multiple components. The first component is, of course, the core logic, which is the abstractions that I mentioned earlier, and that is written in Python. Then, as I said, the application has to be easily available to non-developers, and so a lot of people use a desktop application, and so I decided to write a desktop application for this. And a desktop application needs a UI, so it needs buttons and stuff that people can click on and work with. So that UI I wrote in a framework called PyQt5. Then the application has to be packaged so that people can install it on their systems, and for that I used fman build system, and I finally got a website where people can go and install HandWriter. So long story short, these are the results that I got. On the left you see a text document, and on the right you see its handwritten output. And you can go on the HandWriter website, which looks like this, and you can get a Windows installer or a Mac OS installer for HandWriter, and maybe you can install it on Linux if you want. So HandWriter does have a lot of future scope for future work. One is that it currently only works with a single handwriting sample, and we want it to work with multiple handwriting samples. It is presently quite speed and memory hungry, so that needs to be fixed, maybe through multi-threading or something. And once that is fixed, we can have a mobile app or a web app for HandWriter. You can find HandWriter's repo on DSC VIT's GitHub, and the link to install HandWriter, which is the web page that I showed earlier, that is given in the description below. So I look forward to meeting new collaborators on this project.
Starting today, we'll be inviting outside collaborators to work on projects with us. If you find our projects to be cool and noteworthy, you can join our very own Discord server. But first, you'll need a GitHub account, Discord, and a will to learn. All you need to do is sign up on our events platform and join our Discord server. The server will be our official communication platform. I hope you all had an amazing time seeing some of the projects that we built in the last year. If you feel inspired enough and want to create some amazing projects yourself, be sure to join the Discord server.